Right. So welcome to my first mini talk series, or the first talk of my mini talk series. That I'm really excited that you're here and that you're interested in the empowerment of the highly sensitive person, which is a topic that is very, very dear to my heart. And that's why I decided to launch a series of several talks that circle around this topic. And to start with the missing link was actually took quite a lot of courage from my side, because it's a bit like coming out. It's not hiding behind setting boundaries or encouraging HSPs to be a bit more daring. It's really about HSPs stepping into their own responsibility to actually use their talents in this time of transformation to contribute to what is going on, to you take a stand and to influence the way this transformation is going to happen. So I'm very happy you're here and that you're joining me in this adventure to raise our voices. So let's do it. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Berlage-Buccellati, and I live in Hamburg, Germany. And I'm doing this work, or I started doing this work, because I'm an HSP myself, and my life has been, like the life of many HSPs, not that easy. And I had my fair share of therapy, and as a rule, it didn't help at all. It either made things worse, or it helped for a little bit, but I really couldn't find anybody who actually understood the complexity of my, let's call it, problem. And when my children started having similar problems to the stuff I had to go through, being bullied at school, never sort of fitting in, being the boring one because I didn't want to drink alcohol, or I didn't want to go to the discotheque all the time. I didn't want to smoke because, all these things didn't agree with me. It's not that I didn't want to have fun. It's just that I didn't have fun doing it. So when my children started running into similar problems, I told myself, okay, that's it. I really need to start taking a look at what's going on here and why it is so difficult to find either explanations or help for what I see in front of me. And so, since I'm also a scientist, I took a decision to dig into research and to really, try and understand from various perspectives because I didn't know what high sensitivity existed. I only knew this term of, well, you're just, too sensitive, or you are too difficult, or you have a highly reactionable vegetative system. But, all these things didn't really help me. So while I was doing my research, I really started to understand that there are 4 different levels that you need to address if you're working with highly sensitive people, and that there are very, very few people that were actually thinking along those lines. So these levels are the emotional level, the mental level, the purely physical level, the body chemistry, and the energetic level. So if I had talked to somebody about the energetic level 20 years ago, they would have told me I'm woo-woo. But in my research, it came up again and again and again. And we'll talk about that in, in later talks. But today I want to focus on something else. So let me just check my notes for a second. Yeah, so let's circle back. And I prepared a little presentation for you. And so let's start. And please bear with me. I've only done this once. So... Okay. Right. Can you see everything? Can you see the, yeah, great. So, right, in my invitation, I talked about the aspect of HSPs, many HSPs being change makers. So I wanted to define, what do I mean by that? So I'm not talking, about people that start up businesses or are innovative with technology, or do something that really involves many people. Do you think there was just somebody joining? Let me just stop for a moment. No? Okay. So let me pick up. So I'm talking about really anybody who has the impulse and the interest to change the situation he or she is in, or somebody else is in. So let's say you see that children are not being creative enough anymore, and you organize something for your kids and somebody else's kids 3 times a week or once a week. That to me is already a change maker, because you see something that you don't like and you take responsibility and you just do it, you change it, you do something. So in that way, we are all HSPs have that potential to be catalysts of change. And I'll explain a little bit more about that, how I think that works. So, right. I think we're all aware of the fact that we have dysfunctional systems all around us, and that we live in a time of deep systems change. There is no way to not perceive that. And highly sensitive people are especially good at picking up signals of change. They're picking up signals that most other people will not pick up. And normally they don't actually know what to do with it. So unless they are already highly creative or for some reason self-assured, they will just turn that against themselves. Yeah, because they say, well, I don't really have the energy to do it. I don't have the possibility to do it, but we'll talk about that again later. So that stress of being able to pick up all these signals and atmospheres gets a lot of highly sensitive people to actually abuse drugs or take tranquilizers. And the opioid crisis is one of the aspects of it. And then you have anxiety, depressions, and all kinds of other things that are sort of put in the wrong drawer by the medical profession. Yeah, because it just says, oh yeah, you're just you have a depression. But the question is really, do you have a depression because you're not applying yourself to what you're actually built for? Yeah, so I feel that we are in a time now where we really need to step up and take responsibility for the talents we were given and share our gifts with confidence in order to help the systems change that we're in go in a direction that we actually wanted to go. Yeah, rather than hide behind the victim. So many people have read this book, The Sensitive is the New Strong. Yeah, but what is she talking about? She is talking about very much about empath. And I will do another talk about the difference between a highly sensitive person and an empath and where they actually meet. But it is entirely possible to be a highly sensitive person and be a narcissist, or a highly sensitive person and not to be very empathic. So that's a topic we will definitely talk about. But for the purpose of this talk, let's dive into what is the strong. Where are we strong? And you might recognize a lot of these things that you see them in advertisement. You see that in the way business describes themselves. You hear people talk about it on TV and in newspapers, but nobody talks about the people that are best at it, and that's the highly sensitive people. We are still excluded from the discussion because our society is so wired towards another personality type. And so let's quickly go through what the potential is, what the gift is. Highly sensitive people are very creative. And if we are not creative, we suffer. We tend to be at the innovative edge of things. And why? Because we are so sensitive to what's going on around us. So we say, oh, look, there's this and this and that. Let's do something with it. Yeah. So many change makers, change agents, or creative people, creatives being writers, photographers, architects, creative scientists, most of them are also highly sensitive people. And we are very, very good systems thinkers, which is something that is sorely needed in our time, the ability to think laterally, to be able to include complex thinking and analyzing and what's actually going on. So I would say that is one of our superpowers, actually, that is very, very underestimated because we hide behind our victim. Yeah. But it's really, really important for our times to bring that into the discussion. And because when you read the newspaper, you have the feeling that people can think one or two things maximum at the same time. But complex thinking asks for something else. And so we're really good at that. And then the other thing is that we thrive in community. We want to build community. We want to be in teams. We want to include empathic rules. We don't function very well in environments, in narcissistic environments as a rule. We don't thrive well in me first. It's just not the way we are wired. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we tend to have problems. But I wanted to talk about the gift first and not about the problem. So let's switch on to the next topic, which would explain why we don't use our gifts. And here are some of the reasons. One of the main reasons is that many HSPs are actually traumatized. So many of the labels that HSPs get, like oversensitive, you cannot have noise, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you are sensitive to medicine, you're sensitive to food, and blah, 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 are actually a function of trauma. So that is very, very important to have that distinction, because otherwise you're treating the wrong thing. So you're not treating an HSP for food sensitivity. You're treating the trauma, or you should be treating the trauma that the HSP has. And that so many times that distinction doesn't get made. And I find that is very problematic. So let's just very quickly go through this. So trauma very, very many times actually starts already in kindergarten, being bullied, for being different, for wanting more space, more peace, more, more real connection, maybe, being very sensitive in your body. And it leads to having a dysregulated nervous system at a very, very early age. And it also means that we learn at a very early age that the communication and the collaboration we want is not wanted by everybody. And the bully is usually not interested in cooperation. Yeah. So it's usually a place where we are already disempowered at a very young age, unless we're very lucky to have parents or teachers that look out for these things. But that, is increasingly difficult also, for teachers and parents, because there is such what is the English word for that? It's just a very aggressive environment, me first. Yeah. And the strongest wins. And that's just not the way we're wired. Then another shadow side is that many HSPs are incredibly perfectionistic. Some of that comes out of trauma. If I'm perfect, if I do this really, really well, I will be loved, I will belong. But it's not just that. It's also that because we are such deep thinkers, we really want to get things done well. it's just an urge that we have to do things really well, and not just skim the surface, which is also part of this idea. I really, really want to have deep conversations. It's the same sort of urge. As you can see, one of the things that can also happen is that we're not able to make a lot of money because we don't fit into, we don't have this aggressive going after jobs and after money. We can be burned out in our jobs because of the perfectionism or the stress that we have there. And I already mentioned that, PTSD or ADD is actually rampant, and ADHD is rampant with highly sensitive people because it's actually a nervous system that has been under duress at a very early age. So to treat that with medication is something that, is debatable. So it needs to be looked at. Right? So to wrap this up, I really like this quote. Accept that while what happened to you may not be your fault, creating your future is most definitely your responsibility. So, dear HSPs, it's time to actually step up and understand where our place is, and that we really need to empower ourselves and heal. This is really, really important, and heal in order to contribute with our gifts, because we are the ones that can actually make sure that there is a conversation between the old and the new. We can make sure there's a conversation between people of different opinion. We are the creators. We want to build community, and we have to absolutely make sure, which is also very dear to my heart, that we create a dialogue with non-highly sensitive people, that we don't create new silos, but that we actually manage to build with a real and true community. And this is where we fit in. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll open for questions now. Thank you.